Imagine this, you're walking through the thick, misty jungles of West Java, Indonesia. The air is damp, the trees hum with insects, and ahead of you is a hill, just a hill covered in mossy rocks and tangled roots. Nothing remarkable, except it might be the oldest pyramid on Earth. Let that sink in. The oldest pyramid in the world may be hiding under a jungle hill in Indonesia, not in Egypt. The hill is called Gunung Padang, which means Mountain of Enlightenment in the local Sundanese language. To villagers, it's always been sacred, a place of ancient rituals and whispers, but in 2011 it became something more. A mystery that threatens to rewrite the history of civilization. A team of Indonesian geologists, led by Dr. Danny Hillman, Lemuria, conducted ground-penetrating radar GPR surveys and core drilling at the site. What they found beneath the soil wasn't natural. They uncovered layered stone terraces, underground chambers, and structures arranged in perfect geometric patterns. These weren't random volcanic rocks, these were man-made constructions, buried under layers of lava and time. But here's where it gets unbelievable. Radiocarbon dating on organic materials taken from the deepest layer of Gunung Padang returned a result that shocked the scientific community. 24,000 BC, not 2,400, not even 5,000, 24,000 years ago. That would make Gunung Padang nearly 20,000 years older than the Great Pyramid of Giza. Let that timeline roll in your head. At 24,000 BC, humans were supposed to be hunter-gatherers, living in caves, chasing antelope, struggling to survive, not building megalithic stone pyramids. So, what the hell is this place? Skeptics argue it's just a natural formation, that the dating is flawed, that the team exaggerated their findings, but the evidence keeps piling up. The stone columns are andesite, cut, not random. The orientation of the terraces aligns with celestial points, electromagnetic anomalies, like those found at other ancient sites, are present here. To Gunung Padang might be more than a pyramid. It could be a code left behind by a lost civilization, and if that's true, then our entire understanding of human history, it's about to collapse like a house of cards. History isn't a straight line, it's a spiral we keep rediscovering. In science, the tools we use determine the questions we can ask, and in 2011, one tool, ground-penetrating radar, or GPR, revealed something astonishing. Under Gunung Padang, beneath what seemed like a simple volcanic hill, lay a series of chambers, stacked terraces, and layers of construction built over tens of thousands of years. It wasn't just one structure. It was a multi-phase pyramid, rebuilt across eras like a message being updated through time. It's not a hill hiding a ruin, it's a ruin pretending to be a hill. Dr. Danny Hillman and his team drilled over 30 boreholes into the hill. They mapped seismic data in 3 dimensions and uncovered 4 distinct layers: surface ruins, visible megaliths, estimated around 2500 BC, stone terraces with mortar binding dated to around 7500 BC, buried architecture, symmetrical chambers estimated at 12,500 BCE. And a core structure to solid, man-made foundation, carbon-dated to 24,000 BC. Every deeper layer shocked the researchers because, according to mainstream history, humans in 24,000 BC weren't supposed to build anything permanent, let alone with geometric planning, stone cutting, or astronomical orientation. We are talking about a civilization so ancient, it predates agriculture itself, said Dr. Danny Hillman. Let that sink in. The core of Gunung Padang was likely built before the invention of farming, before pottery, and 15,000 years before the first Egyptian dynasty. And yet, it's man-made. You can see stone columns, arranged in polygonal patterns, placed intentionally to support something above. The deeper the team drilled, the more organized the rock formations became. This is the opposite of what nature does. Nature is chaos. This is order. Skeptics say it's coincidence, natural formations, but it's not just about shape, it's about orientation. Gunung Padang's main axis aligns with the constellation Orion, just like the Great Pyramid of Giza. Coincidence. When enough coincidences align with the stars, it stops being chance, it becomes a pattern. Even more intriguing, electromagnetic surveys revealed energy channels running vertically through the site. In other words, the site still conducts energy, naturally or otherwise. Some believe these pyramids weren't tombs, they were energy centers. Like acupuncture needles stuck into the Earth's crust. It sounds wild, but ancient cultures, from the Andes to Egypt to Angkor, all built stone structures on energy hotspots. Gunung Padang may have been one of the first, if proven true. This changes everything. It would confirm advanced human activity in the Ice Age. It would mean history books are missing at least 15,000 years. It would place Indonesia, not Egypt, as ground zero for megalithic civilization, and that would be hard for the world to accept because rewriting history is never just about evidence, it's about ego, funding, power, and belief. The hardest walls to break aren't made of stone, they're built inside our minds. In 2005, a man made a claim so bold, so outrageous that the world laughed. His name was Samir Osmanagic, a Bosnian American entrepreneur and self-proclaimed archaeologist, and his claim: there is a massive pyramid buried beneath the hills of Visoko, Bosnia. At first glance, the Visovica hill doesn't look like a pyramid. It's covered in trees, slopes unevenly, and blends into the surrounding valley, but Samir saw something else. He noticed symmetrical triangular sides, a flat summit, a precise orientation to cardinal directions. To him, this wasn't a hill. It was an ancient man-made pyramid, and he called it the Pyramid of the Sun. The archaeological community? They mocked him. Major institutions dismissed the idea as fantasy. Media outlets called it a hoax, but Samir wasn't just making noise. He began excavations, funded privately, with volunteers from around the world, and what they uncovered raised more questions than answers. Beneath the surface, they found large megalithic blocks, some weighing several tons, underground tunnels stretching for kilometers, anomalous energy readings, especially at the pyramid's peak. We found stone that was not natural, positioned deliberately, and built in layers, said Samir Osmanagic. One of the most surprising features was the tunnel network, called the Raven Tunnels. These underground pathways twist and wind like a labyrinth, with dry stone walls and air that refreshes itself naturally. Inside them, researchers detected unusually high concentrations of negative ions, far more than normal environments. Some claim these tunnels even have healing effects. Now let's pause. That sounds crazy. It sounds like pseudoscience, but the tunnels exist. You can walk in them today. You can touch the stones. So we ask, if this is just a hill, why does it have megalithic tunnels inside it? Critics continue to resist. They argue the hill is a natural formation. The stones are just river deposits. The tunnels are modern era mining shafts, but the evidence isn't so easily brushed aside. Multiple layers of stone in the pyramid show signs of concrete-like binder between slabs, orientation toward true north, within 0.5 degrees, resonance frequencies at the summit, measured and confirmed by physicists. In 2012, a group of international researchers conducted independent analysis, they claimed the concrete used in the pyramid's construction was stronger and more water-resistant than modern cement. Again, we're not talking about primitive tribes, we're talking about an unknown civilization capable of engineering with precision thousands of years before conventional history says such. Technology existed, this site may be older than the Ice Age melt, and if true, it changes everything we know about Europe's prehistory. But why such resistance? Because Bosnia doesn't fit the narrative. The story we're told is simple. Egypt has the pyramids, Mesopotamia had the ziggurats, Europe had tribes and forests. But if Bosnia, in the heart of Europe, holds the oldest and largest pyramid on Earth, then the timeline fractures. The Pyramid of the Sun in Visoko stands to 120 meters tall, dwarfing Giza's 146 meters. If it's real and ancient, then everything from migration to myth must be re-examined. Real discovery doesn't just find new truths, it breaks old ones. So, what's the truth? We may not know yet, but the Bosnian pyramid complex, whether natural or man-made, cannot be ignored because when hills whisper in the shape of triangles and tunnels breathe and energy hums from stone, the past is trying to speak and we'd be foolish not to listen. While Egypt dazzled the world with golden tombs and towering stone monuments, a quiet civilization was flourishing half a world away with no kings, no wars, and no weapons. Welcome to Cairo, the oldest known city in the Americas, nestled in the Soup Valley of Peru, just a few hours from modern Lima. Cairo predates the Inca by nearly 4,000 years. Archaeologists estimate it was founded around 3000 BC, making it as old as the pyramids of Saqqara in Egypt. Cairo is older than Machu Picchu by millennia, and yet almost no one knows it exists. Unlike Egypt or Mesopotamia, Cairo left behind no signs of warfare. There are no defensive walls, no weapons, no depictions of conquest. Instead, what they left were 6 pyramidal structures, arranged with cosmic precision, open-air amphitheaters, possibly for ceremonies or sound experiments, residential. Zones divided by status, yet integrated in harmony, complex irrigation and trade systems across the Andes. But most shocking of all, Cairo was a city of music, science, and mathematics. Before writing even existed, they used quipu, knots on cords, to record data. They built flutes from condor bones, tuned to specific frequencies, and their central pyramids were aligned with celestial events, suggesting a deep knowledge of astronomy. One of the largest structures in Cairo is the main pyramid, 28 meters tall and more than 150 meters long. It was built without the wheel, without metal tools, without draft animals, and yet it endures. The layout of the city reveals an understanding of sacred geometry and possibly acoustic engineering. Many believe the amphitheaters were used for sonic rituals where sound could vibrate through the stone and body out, inducing altered states. This ties Cairo to a larger global pattern. Ancient civilizations across continents used pyramids as tools, not just tombs. Why, then, is Cairo so unknown? Because it doesn't fit the narrative. History likes drama, empires, warriors, bloodshed. But Cairo shows us a different path. Here was a society that thrived on balance, community, and knowledge, not conquest. It is possible that the first great civilization of the Americas was built not by force, but by harmony. In recent years, the Peruvian government and archaeologist Ruth Shady, who led the excavation of Cairo, have tried to bring attention to this remarkable site, and yet most people still haven't heard of it because Cairo doesn't offer flashy tombs or gold masks, it offers wisdom, and in a world obsessed with power, wisdom often goes unnoticed, but for those who listen, Carol whispers something profound. We don't need kings to build pyramids, we just need meaning. All over the world, from Egypt to Mexico, from Indonesia to Peru, ancient civilizations built pyramids, and they didn't just build them anywhere. They chose locations aligned with the stars. They shaped them to echo sound. They carved into stone a message we still don't fully understand. The ancients didn't just build monuments. They encoded meaning in geometry, resonance, and light. Let's look closer. The Great Pyramid of Giza aligns almost perfectly with true north. Its three pyramids mirror the Orion's Belt constellation, thousands of miles away. The pyramids of Teotihuacan in Mexico follow a similar layout, and in Indonesia, Gunung Padang's terraces point to solstice sunrises. Coincidence? No, it's a pattern, a global one. When civilizations separated by oceans build the same shapes for the same skies. Someone's remembering something, but alignment wasn't the only secret. Many pyramids resonate with sound. In Chichen Itza, if you clap in front of the temple of Kukulkan, the echo returns as a chirping sound, mimicking the Quetzal bird. At Chaven de Huantar in Peru, ancient stone tubes vibrate with specific tones, possibly used in rituals to alter consciousness. Some researchers believe sound was used to move stone, or to influence brain waves during ceremonies. And yes, at Gunung Padang, researchers detected acoustic chambers beneath the terraces. Why does that matter? Because these weren't tombs, they were harmonic structures. The pyramid was not a grave, it was a resonator. Even in Stonehenge, scientists found that sound behaves strangely, bouncing and focusing like an acoustic lens. Now consider this. What if pyramids were not just places of power, but instruments? What if sound, light, and geometry combined too? Create experiential architecture, temples not just to gods but to frequency itself. This may sound far-fetched, but modern physics is catching up. In recent decades, science has shown that frequencies affect matter. Cymatics, light, and sound can stimulate altered brain states. Sacred geometry exists in nature. From flowers to galaxies, maybe the ancients knew more about the fabric of reality than we do. Symbols carved on pyramid walls support this. From Egypt's Eye of Horus to South America's step spirals, recurring motifs suggest a shared language of form, a symbolic code that transcended cultures and continents. Could it be that ancient builders were not just architects, but transmitters? A forgotten knowledge, a kind of science encoded in stone, in sound, in starlight. To understand ancient pyramids, we must stop looking for bones and start listening for frequency. Let's ask the hard question. If discoveries like Gunung Padang, the Bosnian Pyramid, or Carol are so groundbreaking, why aren't they in textbooks? Why don't we teach them in schools? The answer isn't just about science, it's about power, reputation, and the control of the narrative. The greatest resistance to new truths isn't ignorance, it's institutions. Mainstream archaeology has a story to protect. It says civilization began in Mesopotamia around 4000 BC. Writing, cities, and pyramids emerged from there. History is a straight line, from primitive to advanced, from chaos to order, but findings like Gunung Padang don't fit this timeline. They suggest a chapter of human history that predates everything, even agriculture. So, what happens? They get ignored, dismissed, labeled as pseudo-archaeology. It's not that the evidence isn't strong. It's that it's inconvenient. When Dr. Danny Hillman published his data, many Western archaeologists refused to even look at it. Why? Because if Gunung Padang is real, it means everything from funding models to career-long theories must change. Entire textbooks would become obsolete, dozens of professors would be proven wrong, and institutions don't like to be wrong, so instead, they protect the paradigm. It's easier to reject a discovery than rewrite a history book. But what is science if not the constant challenging of accepted ideas? In physics, when someone finds a particle that breaks expectations, we call it a breakthrough. In archaeology, when someone finds a ruin that breaks expectations, we call it a hoax. Why the double standard? Because archaeology isn't just a science. It's a story, and stories are emotional, cultural, even political. Skepticism is healthy. We should question new claims, but blind dismissal without exploration is not science, it's dogma. Many of the world's greatest discoveries were once ridiculed. Galileo was jailed for saying Earth revolves around the sun. Schliemann was mocked before discovering Troy. Göbekli Tepe was dismissed. Until carbon dating forced a rewrite of prehistory, so perhaps it's time to re-examine the fringe, because sometimes the fringe isn't false, it's just early. Every heresy begins as heresy, until it becomes history. Let's dare to imagine, what if there was once a civilization that rose before the end of the last ice age, more than 12,000 years ago? A civilization that knew how to align stone with the stars, channel sound through geometry, and build pyramids not for death, but for life. It sounds like myth, but the evidence keeps growing and the question keeps getting louder. What if history doesn't remember everything? Because some of it was drowned. Around 11,600 BCE, something catastrophic happened. Temperatures spiked, ice sheets melted, sea levels rose over 120 meters. Entire coastlines and the civilizations along them disappeared underwater. This moment is known as the Younger Dryas Impact Hypothesis, the idea that a cosmic event, like a comet strike, triggered a global catastrophe, and some believe that event wiped out an advanced Ice Age civilization, leaving only myths behind. What myths? The sinking of Atlantis, as told by Plato, the flood of Gilgamesh, predating the Bible, the deluge myths of the Maya, Hopi, India, Mesopotamia, and Aboriginal Australia, they all tell the same story. A great flood came. The world reset, only a few survivors remain. If that's true, then the pyramids of Gunung Padang, Kerala, or Bosnia might not be anomalies. They might be survivors, cultural fragments of a global legacy, structures rebuilt from memory by the descendants of those who came before, like an echo of a lost blueprint, and that would explain a lot. Similar pyramid shapes across continents, shared symbolic patterns, sudden leaps in knowledge without clear development. Paths, some call this idea Atlantis theory, others call it alternative archaeology, but maybe it's time to call it what it really is, a possibility worth exploring, because when multiple megalithic sites are older than the timeline allows. When ancient structures mirror constellations across oceans, when flood myths appear in every corner of the globe, it's no longer just myth, it's data we've ignored because it came wrapped in story. Myths are not lies, they're memories wrapped in metaphor. We may never find the capital of this lost civilization, we may never know its language, name, or origin, but if it existed, its fingerprints are everywhere, in the silence of Carol's amphitheater, in the symmetry of Bosnia's terraces, in the humming stones of Gunung Padang, and perhaps in the myths we dismissed as fantasy. Maybe the ancients weren't trying to impress the gods, maybe they were trying to warn us. If we don't remember the last reset, we won't survive the next one. We've traveled across continents and across millennia, from the lush hills of Indonesia to the sacred valleys of Peru, from the silence of Cairo to the controversy in Bosnia, and one question echoes louder than ever: what were the ancients trying to tell us? Maybe pyramids weren't just tombs, maybe they were time capsules, messages encoded in geometry, frequency, and alignment, designed to outlast language, politics, and empires, because stone doesn't lie and stars don't forget. Look closely. And patterns appear, pyramids aligned to Orion, Sirius, and the solstice, chambers built to resonate, not just to rest, symbols that speak not to gods but to generations. History isn't buried under the ground, it's embedded in stone. So, what is the pyramid code? It's not a single message, it's a system of knowing, repeated across cultures and continents. The stars are our map. Sound is a bridge, stone is memory. Harmony, not conquest, sustains civilization. This code wasn't meant to glorify kings, it was meant to guide humanity through time, through floods, through forgetting. And now the code is reawakening new tools, from satellite archaeology to ground-penetrating radar to radiocarbon dating. And AI reconstructions are peeling back the layers. We're finding pyramids in places we were told they couldn't exist. We're seeing connections the old history books never drew. The ancients planted seeds, and we are just now learning how to listen. They didn't build to be remembered. They built so we would remember. So where does that leave us? With a choice, we can dismiss all of this as myth and coincidence, or we can accept that history is bigger than we were taught, that pyramids weren't the beginning, they were a continuation, a signal from before the flood, a message from before. Memory. If Egypt didn't build the first pyramid, then maybe we didn't build the first civilization. The question is no longer if it's, are we ready to remember?